You have to take pride and joy in the execution. You cannot control the goalkeeper who happened to guess right. And 1 out of 20, she's probably not going to save that, or she's going to save that. 19 times out of 20, you'll probably score. You have to take pride in the execution of the thing, not the result of the thing.
Yeah.
That's what pros do. When a goalkeeper makes a great save, the players don't go back in the locker room and cry. It's just a good save. You can't do anything about it. But amateurs do. Then they start to play worse. Then they start to take chances. Then they lose the game 4-0 because they stop doing what they were doing.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Business of Learning podcast. My guest here today is Steve Heroux, who is the founder of the Sales Collective. Steve, welcome.
How's it going, man? Thanks for having me, Joao.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you today because I believe for the podcast now, you're actually the first person I'm speaking with that has a sales tailored company. So for everyone here, tell them a little bit more about the Sales Collective, what you guys are all about, who you help, and anything you want to say there.
Yeah, the easiest thing probably to start with, like the spirit of why I started the company and what I do as a speaker, author, and all that is really to undo most of if not all of what people have been taught about sales or sales leadership. We don't have a great impression, and you may know this, but salespeople are part of a group of 3 least trusted professions on the planet, right? It's salespeople, lawyers, and politicians, right? I mean,
is sales at the top or politicians at the top?
yeah, they're equally distrusted.
Oh, okay, got it.
More than any other profession, and so that's because of what salespeople have had to endure and how they've been trained. And I was another podcast the other day, and they go, why do you get up in the morning? Like, what is it, your why? And the first thing that came to my mind was to stop the abuse of salespeople. And so that's why I started the Sales Collective. And as a company, right, helping, again, our clients reimagine, everything, their go-to-market strategy from top to bottom, how they train and coach and hire and lead and guide, right, their salespeople and sales managers. And I'm abundantly and inconsequentially against quotas, goals, and KPIs, like all of this stuff. It's just pure poppycock, right? They're just myths. But when you've heard something, over and over again, right, for 5 years, 10 years, 30 years, it just becomes fact. And all of those things do not help people. You've just been told to, that they do. So
interesting. Yeah, I would love to hear a little bit more on the being against goals and KPIs. That's something that's still more often or commonly thought by everybody. Like, it's just, hey, hit these goals, hit these KPIs. Let's hope for the best. Boom, you go, guys. So talk to me a little bit more about that. Why don't you believe in those?
Oh man, where do we start?
Yeah, well, we could be here for 3 hours.
You're in Toronto, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if this stuff translates to Canada. So if I can't see, right, I misplaced my glasses, right? People say, man, without my glasses, I'm blind as a what? What do people say?
Blind as a bat.
Okay. Are bats blind?
They are almost blind. They're not fully blind, I believe.
Bats can see 3 times better than humans.
Oh, wow.
So that's
oh yeah, but they're just in a dark cave. So
like false, right? Total false.
Interesting.
Napoleon, do you know Napoleon?
Yeah, short guy.
Complex, right?
Yeah,
he wasn't short.
Yeah, that one.
Everyone knows this, right? But because the British said he was short over and over again, people go, oh, I guess he's short. We have a holiday here in the States, well, not anymore, called Columbus Day. Thankfully, they rescinded the holiday. What did Columbus discover?
Most commonly known, America.
Yeah, he discovered nothing at all. I can't go to your house tonight and go, hey, man, get out.
I'm just discovering your house.
I just discovered your house. I've been living here for 30 years. No, I know, but I found it. So let you live in the backyard of that little 2 square feet. So because of all of this stuff that has been repeatedly is taught to us, we just believe it's true, and so it's
Mhm.
goals. Um, and maybe the easiest thing to share, or maybe to ask, what were you taught about goals?
I think the most common way to set goals is like, what do I want to achieve? And then let's say for the sake of a simple example is like, hey, I want to get to $1 million a year
Yeah.
this year.
Okay.
That's they usually focus on outcomes.
Okay. Which is again physically impossible.
Yeah.
You cannot control an outcome.
Hmm.
Neither can I. Neither can anybody else on this planet or any other.
Hmm.
That's a fundamental flaw of a goal. First,
Yeah.
um, then you have, smart goal. You got to have smart goals. You got to use the acronym. You got to write it down. If you don't write it down, it's not going to happen. It's just all this crap.
Mm.
So, did you watch the Olympics?
So I watched some of it. Yeah, I watched some of it.
So, in Paris, right, there were 10,500 athletes roughly, right, that came to Paris. What was their goal?
To win
What?
the gold medal.
What a surprise. Okay.
Yeah.
So all
Everybody has
of
the same
them
goal.
had the same goal.
Yeah. Winners and losers have the same goals.
Do you know how many gold medals were given out?
Not many.
329.
Yeah. Mm.
So what's the difference between gold medal winners and everyone else? Because clearly, unequivocally,
Cool.
it is not the goal.
Mm. Mhm.
So what does make the difference? Do you know why would some guy or gal win gold
Yeah,
over somebody else?
it's the inputs. It's the maximized inputs to get the minimum return that takes it over the line.
Could it be more than just inputs?
Yeah, possibly their identity, their mentality, how hard they train,
Mm,
how consistent
luck,
they are. Oh yeah, luck as well for sure.
wind. It could be a million things,
Sure, yeah,
but it sure as hell ain't the goal.
yeah, definitely not the goal.
So that's one thing, but the second part, which is the tougher part for people, right, to
Mm,
understand about goals. Let's say you do hit a goal. And by the way, all the studies ever done on this topic are between 6% and the maximum is 20% of people hit a goal, right? It's a
mm.
max, but it's usually between around 8 or 10%.
Sure.
So if 8 or 10% of people actually hit a goal, how do they feel? What does their brain tell them?
Good job, mostly. I
Cool.
don't know.
And a 90% that don't hit a goal, what does their brain tell them?
You're a failure.
So that's gotta be good for productivity. I mean, that works clearly.
Yeah.
It's just and
Uh-huh.
so if you look at it in a sales context,
Yeah.
and I don't know your background or business context, let's say your goal, you used this earlier. My goal is $1,000,000, right? Whatever. And sales
Sure.
and revenue doesn't, and you hit this goal in August,
What's
September.
the rest? Hmm.
What do most people do when they hit a goal early?
Um, it really depends on the person. Either the person's like, "Oh, I hit it early, let's double it," or "I'm cool and I'll just chill back."
What's the overwhelming majority?
Chill back. For sure.
So that is not a good part of the
Yeah.
goal.
Mhm.
And then let's take the other side. Your goal is 1,000,000. You're way behind, right, in August.
Mhm.
What do most people do?
One will get very overwhelmed, very overwhelmed, but also, I guess their mentality really gets them. It's like, "Oh, it goes back to like, "Oh, I'm a failure," or "I'm not gonna
Correct.
succeed," and all those
And
things.
now you have no, now you give up.
Yeah.
You try way less because you're so far away.
Mhm.
So
So
all of this is the stuff that's been taught.
mhm,
And the only thing that a human being can control is them, and that's it.
mhm,
What can you do today?
mhm,
And the reason, again, I am fundamentally against KPIs and outcomes and all this
mhm.
crap is because all you can control is you. And so
Sure.
we teach something called DPIs, right? Which are daily performance indicators.
Mm,
Um, think about this. If somebody wants to lose, weight, right? They want to lose 30 pounds, right?
mhm,
And they say, well, that's my goal. My goal is to lose 30 pounds.
mhm. The goal is not to eat less or
What
what.
are you going to do? What?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd like to be in the NBA. Well, that's not going to happen. So,
yeah.
what can you do
Mhm.
to
Interesting.
reflect?
Yeah.
right? The him
Intent.
to
Mhm.
lose 30 pounds, you
So
don't
would you say, see, sorry to interrupt you.
no,
So would you say it's not really, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's not really about having quote unquote goals. It's about what those goals usually are, which are outcome based. But if they are input based, in which is the daily activities that you can
yes.
actually good, then those are actually good goals. Hey, I'll make a
Yeah.
hundred calls a day. Hey, I'll make all these things. That's what we're doing.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
And
Of
it's
course.
the word because we know what a goal is and our brain does too because we have been force fed this for years. And so
Mhm.
even if you change it to a daily goal, let's say, and it's
Sure.
to make 100 calls and you only make 89, what does your brain tell you?
Still falling short.
That's why, right?
Mm,
So when we say, what can you control today? It's just do the best you can today. Maybe it was 89 calls, maybe it was 103, maybe it was
mm,
14, but to have a target, right, for a
mm,
day, you could. But
mm.
when I say it's a target, it's not a goal, right?
So it's like that 2 millimeter shift of the actual framing of it.
Yeah.
Huh, very interesting, very
Yes,
interesting.
and that's it's a different way to think about it, but what we've done with all the clients is we gamified it. So now we assign a point value, right? We call it a daily 100, and basically it's just get to 100 points. We don't care how you get there. And so each thing that a salesperson can control is worth a certain amount of points. So if you make a dial or go call on a client or a customer or walk into a shop or
Mhm,
whatever, that's 1 point. Whereas if you send thank you notes, if you send thank you notes, that's 5 points. You do
mm,
two thank you notes, you get 5 points. If you do your role play today, right, which is a practice with someone or your
wow.
system, a recording or anything like that, that's 10 points.
Mhm,
If you do your 15 minutes of training, which is also what we teach, that is all it takes, right, to be it's just immensely better at what you do.
mm,
It's 15 points. So
mhm,
all a salesperson does every day is just tries to get to the 100 points. And
mhm,
who cares if they get 91 or 103 or 84 or whatever? It doesn't matter because they can see the progress. Look what I did today. And
mhm,
they feel good and they go home to their families feeling good and they
mhm.
come into work feeling good. And not a single one of those DPIs has anything to do with sales or revenue.
Hmm, interesting. Wouldn't that and I love your thoughts here. Wouldn't them having the target of the 100 points
Yep.
also kind of be a goal? So if they fall short of that, they're like, "Ah."
It's not a goal. It's a
Hmm.
target.
Oh, okay. Oh, that goes back to the framing that you mentioned before.
Yep.
Hmm,
So it's
interesting.
just, hey, just try to get somewhere around there, right?
Hmm,
But even
interesting.
if somebody has 75 points, they could see, right? Wow, okay, cool. I made 40 calls, right? I did my role play. I asked for referrals. I feel really good about today. It just
Interesting.
doesn't matter what the number is as long as
Mhm,
it's somewhere in that neighborhood, but they're seeing
mhm,
progress. It's almost like a to-do list, right? Where I don't know if you do them, they're very effective for people. Most of the self-made millionaires, 81, 82% do a to-do list.
mm,
But it's not 58 things long
mhm.
because if it
Very
was,
precise priorities.
if you if you had a to-do list 58 things long and you did 57, do you know what your brain tells you?
Still short, still
You
work to be
feel you screwed up, you're short. So to-do lists and like DPIs, 4, 5, 6, somewhere, in that range, right? It could be 8,
mm,
but you just wanna check off boxes, right? I did my calls, I sent my notes, I asked for
mm,
referrals, I did my LinkedIn post today, I'm up to did a
mm,
social media post, just do the things that you know will move the needle and help
mhm,
lead to more sales, and 100 times out of 100,
mhm,
do these DPIs over and over again, sales magically goes up. What a shock.
mhm,
Um, so that's what you can control, and that's what you focus on, and that's what
mhm.
you're learning and getting better at is
Yeah.
executing those things.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I really like that framing. Thank you for sharing that. I was wondering for you, um, I think sales is always a bit of a, not a sensitive topic, but a lot of executives they're like, we don't need sales training. Like, how is that going to help us? Our sales guys are sales guys for a reason.
Yeah.
So when you hop into that conversation, how do you
That's an easy one. Probably the easiest question I get from a
you
leader.
just
Do you know, well, you got Canadian football.
I don't watch it. I'm
It
originally from Brazil, so
it's funny, and it would probably be the same for soccer, for real football players, but,
let's see.
um, in the NFL or in the CFL, but in National Football League here in the States, right, there's 32 teams, and
Mhm.
these 32 teams are full of it 1/1000th of 1% athletes athletically,
Sure.
right? They're the best in the world. They've been doing this for 20 years. They make $3.3 million on average.
Mm,
Do any of these 32 teams have a playbook?
probably.
You know the
I mean,
answer.
they have frameworks, I'm assuming, but no playbook that kind of leads it to the
All
target.
of them.
Oh, they do? Okay. I
All
don't know much about
no,
NFL.
it's okay.
Yeah.
All of them. Every single one of them have a playbook
Hmm.
with hundreds of plays.
Oh, a play. Oh, okay. I misinterpreted your
Oh,
question.
it's okay.
You actually meant like a literal playbook. Okay,
A
just
literal playbook. Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, all of them. Like, and
Okay.
most NFL playbooks have a couple of hundred different plays, right?
Okay.
Different runs, different
Sure.
passes, things like that. Do you think they practice these plays?
Probably. Yeah.
How often?
Hopefully every day.
So in football in the States, and it's still a little bit different for soccer, but in football, a game takes 3.5 hours, right?
Mm,
On TV, right? It's a long time,
yeah.
but it's still only 60 minutes.
Mm,
Do you know how long a ball is moving? Like how long, football actually happens? Because it's not like soccer, right?
yeah. It
It's not
doesn't happen.
constant movement.
Yeah, not a lot of movement. I went to one game in the CFL, funnily enough, once, and I was sorry for any football fans, but I was bored out of my mind. It was like it just stopped all the time. I didn't understand it, but also I don't understand it, so that makes sense.
Now you know what people go through. So
Yeah.
it's 3 hours long to watch. It's 60 minutes on a clock, on the game clock.
Mhm.
There are 18 minutes of actual action.
Mm,
1-8. That is it. But why I share this, there are 53 guys who dress up in uniform. They don't all play, and they don't all play full 18 minutes each because there's
mhm.
offense, there's defense, there's
Sure.
special teams. So on a Sunday, an NFL athlete who makes $3.3 million a year, who's done this for 20 years, might potentially work for 6 minutes a week.
Mm,
6 minutes. So then I ask all the leaders, CEOs, all the people we work with, I go, how much time do you think these NFL athletes put in to
mhm.
prepare to
For that 6 minutes.
potentially work for 6 minutes?
Mm, yeah.
How long would you guess? How many hours a week?
It's a lot of hours, so definitely a lot of hours.
Practice, game film, weight
Yeah,
room,
lots. I would say
physio,
yeah, I would say I would say it would be at least 40, at least. Probably more than that.
65.
Yeah, probably more, yeah, for sure.
So that's what I share when they go, "Oh, our salespeople know what to do." That would be like saying, "Our players know what to do."
Mhm.
Oh, do they practice any play? No, 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 no. Do they have any coaching? Absolutely not.
Mm,
Well, how do you expect to win games? Oh, we just arbitrarily assign them how
mm.
many yards they're supposed to run for today.
Yeah.
That's it. That would never happen in a trillion years.
Mm.
You think Ronaldo or Ronaldinho, are you insane? You think that's what they were being told? Th
Chance, yeah.
they would walk off the pitch if somebody assigned them how many goals they needed to score today,
Mm, mhm,
how many tackles they needed to make. They would question the sanity of the coach.
mm,
And this is what leaders do to their salespeople. It is
mm.
pure insanity.
That's so interesting. That's such an interesting frame to put there. Wow. When you're having, how do people usually find out about you guys? Is it usually like is it
Um,
advertisement? Is it word of mouth?
well,
Organic?
mostly speaking, right? So mostly on the speaking tour, and
Mhm.
we get a lot of referrals. We're just
Sure.
now launching, right, all of our outbound stuff and
Mm.
social media and newsletters and all that stuff. And the book has been really helpful, on
Yeah, of course.
I, you know, and it's funny, unsurprisingly, now that you're hearing this in your audience, it's called the sales contrarian.
Mm,
Um, when you teach the polar opposite of something, you're going to get a lot of strange looks.
for sure.
But that's what happens when you've been doing the same thing,
Mhm,
over and over again, and you're like, wait a second, that's not right. Um, and so we get a lot,
mhm,
from that. But
mhm.
most of the time, people question it, and they're like, this can't be right. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's cool. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm not telling you to change. Like,
Mhm.
we don't need every client.
Yeah.
Just
I'd love to hear on your side too, and it's interesting you touch on that point. Um, Obviously, there was always going to be with new things, different things, like you said, there's always going to be skepticism. So maybe not even on that specific lane for the business, but for the business itself, what are maybe some of the challenges in finding more growth of like, hey, okay, we have this amazing thing. How can we just boom?
yeah, it is interesting because outbound for most people, right, is difficult because you've got to establish the brand, first, right? People want to be uh, comfortable knowing, right, that they're going to work with someone who's known in the community or who's shown
Yeah,
results,
trust
all those
for
things,
sure.
right? But that's also the problem because you have a bunch of people on social media who are just fake gurus who've
Mhm.
created this phony persona of brand. Um, I won't mention their names. A lot of these
I definitely know a few. Yeah.
well. Um, they would get laughed out of a boardroom, of any professional business situation, they'd get thrown out. But they take advantage of the downtrodden, the desperate, the people who view money as this be all end all thing,
Mhm.
and they prey on them. And, that's a lot of people in the personal growth world, right? The
Mhm.
creepy uncle, right? The little fraud from Wall Street. So much of these, people are
Mhm.
being robbed. And when you have people who, look up to these frauds,
Sure.
right, it's really sad because when they finally realize it was all just a sham
Mhm.
and a method to get their money, um, it's sad to see how much they've wasted and the time that they've given to these idiots.
Mhm. So
So
would you say for you guys that maybe that trust factor of being able to like get that trust onto a new prospect that
yeah.
um could get on board with you, that's probably like a challenge that
It is because it takes time to build that, and we've been lucky and thankful and all these things that we have so many
Mhm.
amazing clients that I've met through speaking, right? And
Yeah, of course.
they refer us to other clients. And so now building the brand, doing the content, bringing real value,
Mhm.
that's all coming up, newsletter, YouTube.
Yeah, of course.
So it just takes time to
Yeah,
build.
it's the hockey stick. It
Right.
just like
And you
it's the Nope.
and that's the patience, right? Again, that's the detachment from outcomes. We can't build this the right way and then go, "Oh, how many visitors did we have to the website today? Because our goal
Mhm,
was 1,000." Like, no,
mhm.
you just try to bring real value to the
Yeah.
marketplace, and then people will reach out to you.
Mhm,
You don't know when that's gonna be. You just have to do the best you can every day, and
mhm,
that's it, and let the chips fall where they may. It's just
mhm. Yeah,
so that's sort of what our kind of focus is coming up this year,
interesting.
working on that, right.
Yeah, and with the book, a lot of authority could comes as well, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
I would love to ask one thing actually, which is something we touched on before we started recording,
Mm.
which is a lot of sales we'll just say salespeople nowadays, they just want to sell and sell and sell, and they actually don't even ask anything about the prospect. They don't ask anything about their
No.
challenges, what they're going through,
And
their situation, like anything at all, which to me is mind-boggling, and I'm sure it is to you as well. Do you think that's one, obviously, that's part of the usual culture that we see of like, "Hey,
right, they're told to do that. Just go sell. Yeah.
exactly." And do you when you see that happening, do you think, is one a lack of or maybe just ignorance from these salespeople who just don't know the right way of doing it? And why do you think not a lot of people just go through the process of actually trying to understand if one, if they can help, if they're the right person to help,
Yeah.
but also just really understanding their prospects and what they're going through to see if it's a perfect fit and how they can help them?
Yeah.
Why do you think that's not more common?
Probably just because it's ingrained in society, right?
Mm,
They're all outcome driven. They're paid on outcomes.
sure.
So they think, well, if I sell more, I make more money. Therefore, let me really try to sell people other stuff. And
Mm,
it's also again the opposite. We'll use soccer for this time, right? So
sure. Thank you.
who's your favorite soccer player?
Neymar, you know it's
Oh, Neymar. Okay, good.
yeah, of course.
So he's probably made a few PKs in his life, right?
Best in the world, actually. Yeah.
Okay, so he's got a PK. What do you think he's thinking?
Actually, I know. I actually watched an interview yesterday, so it might
Oh,
be a little bit different one.
oh, this is great. What did he
Yeah.
say?
He always watches the keeper. He never looks at the ball, and he just waits
Yeah,
for the keeper to make the first move and then shoots.
perfect.
Why is the
He
best
is
one?
not thinking, I'm going to score here. That is not what world class athletes do.
Mm.
They think, how can I execute this?
Yeah, yeah, that's so interesting, huh?
That's the
That's like a respect.
only thing.
Tell about the concentration of
Yeah,
the execution. Huh. Yeah.
he doesn't come in and go, this is going 82 miles an hour in the top right. That's not what he's thinking.
Yeah.
So if you do that in sales, it's going over the bar into the eighth row.
Mhm.
If you try to score hard, you don't score. And that's sales. But
Yeah.
they're not taught this, right? They're
Mm,
all outcomes. And so the other side of this, I wish I would have learned it earlier.
mm.
And I don't know if you're may or may not have kids.
I do not know.
Some people do, I don't. But it's interesting when I ask parents this question, it's been the same answer 25,000 times in a
Mm,
row. If let's say you did have a kid, you had a
sure.
daughter, right?
Okay.
That a little girl and she becomes teenager.
Sure.
Would you let her date whoever the hell wants to date her?
No.
Really, why not? They really want to date her.
I think it all comes down to being able to protect her, and making sure that she's taken care of properly. Yeah.
By the way, the answer's been no 25,000 times in a row.
Yeah.
Wanting to date your daughter is not a qualification to be able to date your daughter.
Of course.
Wanting to buy something from you is not a qualification for me to buy it from you. And
Mhm.
this is what salespeople don't understand. Just because someone wants to buy something from you does not mean you should sell it to them.
Mm. Yep.
That is not what they're taught. They are taught sell to anyone who's got a pulse and
Yeah.
some form of currency.
Mhm.
So they do, then they become
Mm.
horrendous clients and customers who always complain, never pay on time. They're a
Mm.
headache to deal with.
Yeah.
And you are now wasting your time with this person who,
Yes.
even if you delivered, they will still be mad, still talk crap about
Mhm.
you. Cannot do that, which is
Mhm.
why you have to be selective with who you sell to and
Yeah.
stick to your ICP, right?
Yeah.
Who's your ideal customer?
Mhm.
Sell to them and only them.
Mhm.
And even not all of them. The ones that are going to be great clients, not the ones who happen to have a form of currency.
Mhm.
That's what most salespeople don't understand
Mhm.
because they're taught the opposite.
Yeah. That's so interesting, and I just wanted to want to highlight the analogy that you were making with soccer because it's so interesting that when with sales and sports, they always have the conviction, they have the confidence that they will score, they will get to whatever else. But that's not their focus. The conviction and the confidence is there, but they're focusing on the execution. They concentrate on what they actually have to do. So that I really just wanted to highlight that one more time, which is awesome. I think it's so important to um
Oh, by the way, you know
go
what?
ahead.
Now that you said that, you reminded me of a story I told about penalty kicks, and it was in Michigan,
Okay.
in Detroit, not far from you.
Okay.
And this guy said his daughter, really high level soccer player, like really
Mm,
high level,
okay.
almost US team, not quite, but almost.
Mhm.
And I said, let's say she's on the dot, right? Ready to take the PK. She tattoos this ball, right? I mean, bottom left corner, right? I mean, just
Okay.
perfect. And the goalkeeper guesses right because it's just a guess, you non-soccer fans. They just guess. A keeper dives right or dives left. They guess. There is
Yeah.
no seeing the ball, then moving.
Yeah, no time.
So the goalkeeper happens to guess right, okay, dives to her right, the kicker's bottom left, gets a fingertip on this perfectly tattooed kick, goes off the post. It's no goal.
Mm,
And I asked the guy, did your daughter execute that kick?
mhm. She did, just happened to not happen not this time. This didn't work this time, but the
That's
execution
not
did.
what he said.
Oh, interesting.
He said, no, she failed.
Huh.
I said, and what'd you tell her after? He goes, you need more practice. And I go,
Mm,
okay, everybody, you just witnessed future trauma about to happen to this poor little girl.
interesting.
It is not the result. See, this is a guy who is obsessed with
Mm,
results and is going to make his daughter hate soccer.
mm,
You have to take pride and joy in the execution. You cannot control the goalkeeper who happened to guess right. And 1 out of 20, she's probably not going to save that. You know, or she's going to save that. 19 times out of 20, you'll probably score.
yeah.
You have to take pride in the
Mhm.
execution of the thing, not
Yeah,
the result of the thing.
yeah.
That's what pros do. When a goalkeeper makes a great save, the players don't go back in the locker room and cry. It's just a good
Yeah,
save. You can't do anything about it.
yeah,
But amateurs do.
mhm,
Then they start to play worse.
mhm.
Then they start to take chances. Then they lose the game 4-0 because they stop doing what they were doing.
Yeah,
But
and
that
this is
made me think of that.
no, and it's great that you share that, and it's funny because I used to actually train, pros and, elite soccer players in a
Oh,
sense.
really?
Yeah, so, it's so true because there's always it's so much input, and their mentality is so much different into being able to achieve obviously the results and the goals that they want,
Yeah.
but it's like, I wanna get there, but that's irrelevant. Like, what do I have to do today? And it's always like just getting back to it's just like, do this, do this, do this, execution, execution, execution as much as possible.
Okay, so have you ever seen a 0-0 game, 0-0?
Yeah, of
That
course.
was an amazing game.
Yeah, many.
Why do you think Americans don't get soccer?
Just focus on the goal, focus on the score.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, "Why don't Americans like soccer?" Because they're obsessed with outcomes. They can't
Mm.
understand. And for those of you that are, maybe don't understand soccer, it's called the beautiful game, right? It's what it's called, and it's
Yeah.
why the entire world loves it and America doesn't,
Hmm.
because they're not obsessed with outcomes. America
Interesting.
is, right?
Interesting.
They like the game for the game. What a
Yeah.
pass. They executed that corner kick perfectly, right?
Yeah.
It's
Mm.
just not American. If
Yeah.
American football had games that always ended 0-0 or 1-0 or whatever, it wouldn't be what it is. They're
Mhm.
so focused on this, and it's
Yeah.
unfortunate, but
Yeah.
that's
Which actually one of the things I find so interesting is the scoring, which I was again, I know nothing about it, but I know that it's always so high. I'm like, "Oh, interesting." So it's like more points the better. But yeah, anyways, I have one.
basketball's 100 point, right? 100 to
Yeah,
90,
exactly.
120 to
Yeah.
110, right? So
Yeah. That one is actually good action though. I do like basketball, so
yeah,
I'll say that.
yeah.
But I have one last question here for you, Steve, and it's actually not a question from me. It's a question from the last guest to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So ready for it?
Yeah.
Here it is. It's how are you making the world a better place through your business?
It's funny, someone asked a similar question the other day,
Mm,
and I wish I could share the text, from a client. I had spoken to his sales team, and he was gonna have somebody else come. He met me through one of his mentors, and
sure.
I ended up coming. And afterwards, I don't I'll paraphrase.
Sure.
I said, "Hey, Brad, how was everything? How'd the team like it?" He goes, "Bro, dude, you have no idea. We are all totally mind effed.
Mm,
You know the rest of it." When people change their mind about something because said some of my craziness, that's to me, right, what makes the world a better place. Somebody
mm,
that now has detached from outcomes, who has always been attached. And
mm,
just the feeling on his team and what they said, his spirit has changed. What more do you want? And so That's why I do what I do, to get people to open their eyes and open their
Mhm,
minds and see that there's a different way. They don't have to do anything we say. What do I care? I'm just some guy from
mhm,
Boston. Um, but there are plenty of people who do. And the second answer to that question, this came from the book. I wish I could show you the emails, and one of the nicest emails I ever got. This
mm.
guy's 66 years old, and he
Wow.
says, "Steve, you've given me a new lease on life.
Wow.
I wish I would have met you 40 years ago." It's just from the book. So that's why I do what I do. I don't
Mhm,
care about anything else. All the rest of the stuff will come. You know, live in a beautiful place in San Diego, and I have food on my table. I don't have to worry about, financial stuff like that's all a byproduct, right, of
mhm,
helping people see things in a different light. So
mhm.
that's
Awesome.
how I would answer that.
That's so awesome. Thank you, Steve. Thank you so much for your time. This has been a great conversation. I appreciate you sharing your insights. Where can people go if they want to learn a little bit more about you, about the Sales Collective, and obviously that book that you're bringing up?
Yeah, thanks, man. So yeah, so the book's called The Sales Contrarian. Also website, same name. I'm so excited about starting again my new YouTube channel, and LinkedIn's really where I, try to do the most stuff with us as
Mhm.
a company, the Sales Collective. And so that's another spot you could check out, thesalescollective.com as well. So thanks again, man. Really appreciate you having me on here and sharing my insane thoughts.
Yeah, 1000%. I love those thoughts. They were great thoughts. I appreciate you so much, Steve. Thank you.
Thanks, man.